All right, let's talk about this. Because what Robinhood did, it just shouldn't have worked. At all. I mean, they just pop up out of nowhere with zero-fee trading. And everybody thought, okay, it's a marketing trick, a loss leader. But the reality? Oh, it was so much more reckless. And, I gotta admit, way more impressive.
A miracle. Please. Miracles are clean. This was a messy, high-stakes gamble. It was just a handful of engineers who decided, you know what, we're going to do something that Wall Street firms with billions, literally billions of dollars, say is impossible without custom hardware and giant teams. And the crazy part? The gamble actually worked.
So what was the mission? Build a high-frequency trading desk. Fine. But get this, using only open-source tools. I mean, that's the kind of plan that gets you laughed out of the room. Hey guys, let's take on the biggest names in finance with their billion-dollar tech stacks, using stuff we downloaded for free. It's totally absurd. It's like building a race car from a kit and thinking you're going to win the Indy 500. Just nuts.
All right, so let's break down this heist crew. First up, we've got the communications expert. This is the piece that holds the whole insane operation together, the thing that's supposed to stop it all from blowing up the second the opening bell rings.
So yeah, here's the textbook definition for you. A distributed event streaming platform. Right, what does that actually mean? Think of it like a central post office for data, but one that runs at light speed. Every single piece of info goes in, gets sorted, and shot out in the right order. It sounds kind of boring, right? But in this setup, it's so much more than just a tool. No, I'm not exaggerating here. It is the nervous system. Every single thing, every price update, every trade you make, every notification on your phone, even the risk checks, it all flows through Kafka. This isn't just some message queue. It's the one thing that keeps the lights on. If this hiccups for even a second, the entire company just goes dark. Period.
And you think that's audacious? Oh, it gets better. They didn't just use Kafka. No. They needed to process all this data in real time. So what did they do? They built their own tool. They called it Faust. And they built it for Python.
Let me just spell out how crazy this was back then. Python is great. I love Python. You can build stuff super fast, but you do not use it for high-performance, real-time anything. You just don't. Any sane engineer would have told you, no way, the latency will absolutely destroy you. But they just did it anyway. They brute forced it into working. It's just unbelievable.
Okay, so you've got your nervous system running. But then comes that moment. You know, the moment every fast-growing company hits. That painful realization that the tech that got you off the ground, it's now an anchor. It's not going to get you where you need to go. And that means it's time for some major surgery.
And this right here, this is the classic story, isn't it? Step 1, slap something together with Python and Django. Get it out the door, ship it. But then you hit step 2, the bottleneck. When you're trying to execute trades in milliseconds, fast to build turns into too slow to run. And that leads to step 3, the one everyone dreads, the rewrite. Tearing out the heart of your system and replacing.
This really lays out the trade-off. On one hand, you've got Python. It's fast to build with, easy to ship, it got the job done. But it became the millisecond bottleneck. On the other hand, you've got Go. It's all about raw speed. It was built for handling tons of things at once, concurrency, and that gives you predictable performance. You're basically swapping ease of development for pure, unadulterated machine speed.
And there it is. That's the lesson, right? It's like a rite of passage. The prototype gets you started, but the brain, the real engine, is something else entirely. Python was the prototype. Go became the brain. Simple as that. It's what let them actually compete.
So the heist crew has its communications expert and its new brain. What's next? You need the getaway driver, the engine, the thing that can handle the absolute chaos when the market opens and traffic doesn't just spike, it explodes. We're talking 10 times the load instantly.
And what did they bet the entire company on? Kubernetes. Now you got to remember, at the time, this was a massive risk. They were a huge early adopter. To put your entire mission-critical, handling people's money financial system on a technology this new, I mean, that wasn't just gutsy. It was borderline reckless.
And this is a whole different way of thinking. They're not managing servers anymore. Forget that. They're running thousands of tiny self-managing containers. It's like instead of having a few big, clumsy robots, you have a swarm of tiny, intelligent ants that all know their job. It's a fleet, an orchestra, and it's all automated. And this number, this is why they needed it. A 10 times spike in traffic, the second the market opens. Your average website would just melt. It would be a crater, on the internet. But their system, it has to absorb that punch flawlessly every single morning.
And here's where that insane bet on Kubernetes pays off. There's no one in a war room frantically trying to spin up more servers, no pagers going off. The system just does it. Kubernetes sees the tidal wave of traffic coming and, in seconds, scales everything up to meet it. No human needed. It's kind of terrifying how efficient it is.
But look, all that horsepower is useless if your database chokes. It's the classic bottleneck. Imagine trying to find a name in one giant phone book for the entire country. It'd be impossible. So what do? You rip it apart. You shard it. You make a separate phone book for every city. That's what they had to do with their data. Just chop it up into smaller, more manageable pieces.
And let's be clear, sharding is a pain, it's messy, it makes everything 10 times more complicated to manage, but it was the only way. When you're dealing with this kind of scale and you're holding onto people's money, you don't have a choice. This is how you achieve that Wall Street level integrity. It's brutal, but necessary.
All right, so that's the whole setup. Let's look at the final verdict. How did this band of misfits, these open source tools, actually pull this off? So here's the full crew, right? You got the Python prototype that picked the lock, the Kafka nervous system that was the lookout, the Go engine as the muscle for the heavy lifting, Kubernetes for the getaway at scale, and finally, sharded Postgres, the thing that made sure the numbers were always right. Every piece had its job, and it worked.
And that's really the whole story. Robinhood didn't win because they had more money. They were outgunned, massively. They won because of architecture. They beat Wall Street with engineering by making a series of smart, gutsy, and, frankly, absolutely bonkers technical bets that just happened to be right.
So this all leads to a pretty scary thought, doesn't it? We just walked through how a small team built a financial giant using tools that are free for anyone to download. It really makes you wonder, what's next? What happens when the next Wall Street isn't built in a skyscraper, but in someone's garage? What happens when all you need is a laptop and a clever idea?